SportsLink's Third Down Chirp is delivered by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza. Visit papajohns.com today for more info.
Well, greetings and welcome to the final episode of Third Down Chirp, delivered by Papa John's. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And guys, does it not seem like IU was just the other day? Now we're at the last show and last game of the year?
It does, but personally, I'm giving thanks that this Cardinal team is 6-5 and at least has a chance to be to go to a bowl game.
How about at the beginning of the year, did we really think we'd be 6-6 or 6-5 right now, bowl eligible, and even talking about a coach of the year? It's been amazing.
And the Cardinals were oh so close to that 7th win. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the Northern Illinois game this past week on Tuesday. The Huskies back at home, and the Cardinals, though, striking first. The zone option read, Keith Wenning gets in. The Cardinals go up 7-0. Then Chandler Harnish with a turnover, a fumble. Andre Dawson knocks the ball out. Josh Howard picks it up to scoop and score for 92 yards.
And it looked like he was going to get caught at one point, but Josh Howard putting on the afterburners. This was a big momentum changer as NIU was looking to tie the game up.
And what a hit by Andre Dawson, and Josh Howard having the sense to pick it up and just run it in. There see Dawson's hit again, and I saw him on the sidelines afterward, not even able to make it to the bench.
Cardinals up 14-7, then Harnish to Moore for the touchdown, some missed tackling. And the Cardinals, though, still with the lead when Keith Wenning and Jamil Smith hook up here. A bold call, 4th and 3. Keith Wenning audibles to Jamil, and he catches it for the touchdown as the Cardinals, after that, would go by touchdown.
And the Cardinals pulled off all the stops. This was one of them, a gutsy call. 4th and 3, you want to go 30-plus yards in the air, but it worked.
And then in the second half, another gutsy call. The Cardinals with it in their own territory. Scott Cavanda will go on the fake punt. A nice juke move right there. Oh, so close to getting in, gets tripped up at the 3-yard line, but Scott Cavanda, what a huge play for the Cardinals. That sets up a 3-yard touchdown pass to Jack Tomlinson. The Cardinals up 31-14, but then Chandler Harnish doing what he does best, a 49-yard rush, barely even gets grazed on the play as he's trying to get his team back together. And after this next play, a fourth quarter here pass, Harnish to Palmer, some poor tackling. They would go up 35-31. That's 21 unanswered points.
Very poor tackling. Some nice moves there from Palmer, but yeah, 5 guys there. One of them's got to make the stop.
The Cardinals, though, staying in it with Dwayne Donegan, rushing in for the touchdown. Getting in there as the Cardinals go back on top. And then a huge play here. Chandler Harnish in his own territory, intercepted by Sean Baker. He goes for the touchdown, but called back on a roughing the passer called on Tony Martin. Questionable call maybe, but the call stands as the Huskies here with, on that same possession, a field goal to tie the game at 38. Then under 2 minutes to go, Cardinals at midfield driving for a game-winning score. Third down, no good to Briggs Orsbon, and that would give the ball back to the Huskies. And a game-winning field goal from Matthew Sims with under 10 seconds to go, 34 yards out, as the Cardinals lose 41-38. Let's take a look at some of the stats. Plenty of offense in this game.
And Northern Illinois going for over 700 yards offensively is what sticks out the most. Chandler Harnish, 338 yards through the air. A whole bunch more running the football.
How about Juwan Edwards? 14 carries, only 45 yards on the ground. This Ball State offense not able to get it going with the running game. They're really missing Barrington Scott.
No moral victories in this one. Let's hear from Coach Lembo after the game.
We were exposed in space a few times on the defensive side, and on the offensive side, we just needed to stay on the field a little longer and make a few more plays, and we didn't get that done. So, again, congratulations to Northern. They're an outstanding program and very impressive operation.
Well, the Cardinals couldn't have gotten off to a better start, and really, they controlled Chandler Harnish in the first half, but obviously saw in the stats there, he opened up in that second half.
Well, if there was any debate that Chandler Harnish was not the best quarterback in the Mid-American Conference, I think he ended all of that in these past 2 weeks with these dominating performances. And you want to sum up Chandler Harnish in the Mid-American Conference in one stat? He's a quarterback, and he leads the conference in rushing yards. Just phenomenal for anyone to do in the FBS level of football, but he led 700 yards of offense. The Cardinals got to him on that one fumble, bottled him up fairly well in the first half, but in the end, he just was too much for this Cardinal defense to stop, especially on the ground, just dominating runs left and right. And Coach Lembo, I think he said it best. He's glad that this is the last time he's going to have to face him. He only had to face him one time.
Well, what makes Chandler Harnish so dangerous is that he can throw the ball, as you see right there, receivers making great plays. But with Ball State up with such a big lead, you expect them to air it out. So the Cardinals were looking for the pass. But Chandler Harnish has the vision, has the speed of a running back, and he did it with his legs, able to get Northern Illinois back into this game on the ground. That's better than having a running back. That's very good.
And the Cardinals did about everything they possibly could to stay in this game and give themselves a chance at the very end. What kind of sticks out in your mind that with this aggressive play calling, some plays where the Cardinals, uncharacteristic for Lembo, I'd say?
Yeah, Coach Lembo had been, pretty conservative for the most part this season and really came out and rolled the dice, and they worked beautifully almost in every single call. In my opinion, this was the best game that we've seen Coach Lembo coach and a game plan called, and as well as Coach Skrosky, you have to give him a lot of credit as well, and Coach Bateman at times, the defense forcing a couple turnovers there and giving him a chance late. But there's one thing that I think that the coaching staff would like to have back, and that was that final drive there where the Cardinals are looking to take that lead. I think they left too much time on the play clock on that second down call. 30 seconds was when they took the snap. I think if you would have asked them again, they would have liked to say, yeah, let's run that 30 seconds off and make it a scenario of we either win this game in regulation or we go to overtime and don't even give Northern Illinois a chance.
I absolutely love the play calling in this game. I mean, it's easy for an underdog team to come into a game against such a superior team that scores so much like Northern Illinois and just try to keep up and play it safe. But Coach Lembo, not afraid. Rolling the dice sometimes, and that really told his team, we are here to win. We are the better team, and if they want to beat us, they're going to have to beat us. And I love how much they rolled the dice on that fake punt. You don't usually see that, especially with Scott Cavanda. I don't think Northern was ready for that. They would expect Secor in there for the fake, but Cavanda showing the wheels.
And on your own 30-yard line, that is showing that you're pulling out all the stops to try to win. Is that a play of the game that was a big momentum change, or there are plenty to choose from in this game, some big plays?
An unbelievable amount of big plays in this game, almost enough big plays for 2 or 3 games, but that's just how the Mid-American Conference works. But the biggest play in this game, without a doubt, and the biggest play this season was the Tony Martin roughing the passer call that was called on him, a questionable call. It could have gone either way. And not only was it heartbreaking from the sense that, the Cardinals they have to give up the first down to Northern Illinois, but that play, as you saw earlier in the highlights, was a pick six by Sean Baker, would have made it a 10-point game with 5 minutes left. That almost would have sealed the deal in this one. And then you go from not only taking those points off the scoreboard, but had that pass gone incomplete without the roughing the passer, it's 3rd and 14. You have a good chance of getting them off the field. Instead, it's 15 yards for Northern Illinois' drive and that killer first down.
I absolutely agree that was the game changer. And it just because it was so demoralizing to this team. However, you still got to remember they had the rest of the length of the field to drive in order to get that field goal, and then the drive after that to take the lead at the last second. So you got to think the Ball State defense, even after that play, they got to say they got 4 fresh downs. They still got to stop them, but the defense just couldn't do that. I think they were just demoralized. They couldn't catch a break all game.
The stakes were high for this game, but it wasn't the only game where the stakes were high. Let's check out some scores from around the MAC, sponsored by Fox College Sports. We start right away with Ohio nipping Bowling Green there, and Ohio, a team that Ball State beat on the road, they win the MAC East.
And every time Ohio wins, it makes the Cardinals look better for going into their place and beating them.
And then we look ahead here as Western Michigan keeping pace with the Cardinals with the same record with a slight win over Miami.
Yeah, Miami's looked really good the second half of the season, but Western Michigan just a little too powerful, able to squeak that one by.
And then Toledo doing what they've done all year long, blowing teams out. This time to Central Michigan.
Let's not forget, though, this Central Michigan team beat NIU. They're really on the downswing. Try to figure out how they beat Northern Illinois. I can't do it.
The MAC continues with the parity. Buffalo, 51-10. We knew Akron's not very good, but Buffalo really handed it to them.
Yeah, Buffalo's a team to me that drastically underachieved this season. Nice to see the Bulls become the team we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year.
And then an all-rushing attack. Temple, big over Army. Plenty of rushing in that one, but a lot of points.
Yeah, wondering if we even hit double-digit passes in this game. But Temple, they run the ball a lot better than Army did. This is not a surprising result.
And then Kent State, a win over Eastern Michigan. That makes the Eagles have a very tough chance of getting a bowl eligibility here in this next week.
Eastern Michigan really looked good at the beginning of the season, but once they got to the second half, a lot tougher schedule, haven't looked as good. Kent State has looked good the past couple weeks.
Now let's talk about some standings. Now Ohio, obviously in the East, they clinched that. Kent State, a little bit surprising that they've done so well, and they've rebounded MAC-wise. But you look on the West, it's still really a toss-up at the top there.
Now you have 7 teams with 6 or more wins, but let's not forget Eastern Michigan had 2 wins versus FCS teams, so they're really at 5. They've got Northern Illinois this week. They'll probably stay at 5, but the Cardinals probably that 6th team with the 6th win.
How about the MAC East? This is the division that a lot of people thought would be the stronger one heading into this season, but after you go from Ohio, it's kind of a steep drop-off in the West, just so clustered at the top. It's anybody's game.
So looking at the standings and the records of all the teams and their coaches, is Coach Lembo the outright Coach of the Year?
For me, there's only 2 possibilities that you can even bring up and bring into a valid argument. One of those is Coach Lembo, and the other is Coach Ron English from Eastern Michigan. And Ron English has a great resume this year to put out there. Eastern Michigan hasn't had a winning football team since 1995. They beat Northern Illinois. They'll do that. But in the end, it's got to be Coach Lembo. Not only did the Cardinals beat Eastern Michigan, but Ball State had the same amount of wins this year with still 1 game to go than they had the past 2 years. What Coach Lembo has done so quickly, I think it's a slam dunk for the Cardinal coach.
And I think the key to that one is how quickly he has done it. Ron English has been there for several years and able to install his system, install his players. This is pretty much the same team that won 4 games last year for Ball State, and now all of a sudden they're bowl eligible. They really haven't been blown out of any games except for Oklahoma, South Florida, and Temple. So I really think Coach Lembo is the favorite here to win because this is somebody else's team that he came in, completely turned around. It's night and day comparison.
And Coach Lembo with this win or with this winning season, and even if they lose, he'll be at 500. So with that, Coach Lembo in his 11th season, out of all those as a head coach, will only have 1 where he's had a losing record. So pretty good hire, I would say, for Ball State. Well, senior captain and defensive tackle Adam Morris is a teacher to younger players on the team on the field, but he also uses his education major teaching skills off the field as well.
When I originally came, I wanted to do social studies, like history, education, and then just after talking to professors and just kind of what the job market looks like in education right now, I decided to switch to special ed, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it was a good switch for me. Growing up, I had a lot of teachers that had a really big influence on me, and I was really lucky to have a lot of great role models outside of my parents, and a lot of those were my teachers and coaches, so I think that really influenced me to hopefully have that same kind of impact on somebody someday. The teaching program at Ball State is really demanding and also takes a lot of time for somebody that's not in football. Normal students really struggle with it. But I think trying to balance my schoolwork and then having opportunities when I get to go into schools, that's the stuff I really like to do. So that kind of helps me on the academic side of it. It's not all paperwork. I get to go into classrooms and work with kids, so that motivates me to be focused on my schoolwork. Coach Lembo was the one that provided me with the opportunity of working at the Youth Opportunity Center, which is here in Muncie. It's a residential treatment facility for youth around Muncie, and some of them have problems at school, some of them just have family problems, but I think it's a perfect setting for somebody who wants to be a teacher because there's just so many different issues that I had to work with and that I got to learn about this summer. So this summer was when it really started with that job at the Youth Opportunity Center, and I really enjoyed it. It's really important to him. Like, he doesn't just say it, he's really genuine about it, not just with me, but with everybody on the team. Your development as a person outside of football is really important to him because football, being at Ball State, is only going to be 4 or 5 years out of your life, and in the long run, it's really not that much time. So you need to make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to be successful afterwards. I think that the thing that makes special ed so great is it's all about each individual child. So if that specific student needs help in social studies, then I can help them in that. But if they need help in math, it's whatever you have to do to make sure that student is successful to meet their needs, and that's what you have to be able to do. The reward is a lifelong effect that you have on that person. Because when I think about where I'm at now, it's all because of the things that I learned from other people. The things that those teachers and those coaches taught me is not just something I only use that day, that's something I'm going to use every day for the rest of my life. The things like responsibility and being organized and being able to accept discipline from somebody who's in an authority position over you. I think that's the biggest thing in teaching, is learn how to respect someone that's older than you, and I think that's something that I use every day at football practice or every day on the football field, is being able to accept discipline. I would just say that I think there's a lot more people that would enjoy being teachers than they realize. I think the money kind of scares a lot of people off, in the work and the hours, but there's so much more. The reward that you get is so much more special than any amount of money could ever be.
Well, it's time for the final What's Chirpin' segment of the year. I would say tweet at Third Down Chirp, but this is our last show, so it won't really matter. So thanks for all of you that have tweeted at us all year long. We hope you've enjoyed the free pizza. The final one this year from Aaron Bearden, MD, maybe from Maryland or a doctor. Either way, he asked, do we have any chance at a bowl game after the loss on Tuesday?
Well, even if he is a doctor, it's probably still too confusing to try to figure out this bowl picture. But the answer is yes. They have a chance, and they still have a pretty decent chance. Last year, 75 teams in Division I FBS football were bowl eligible. 70 of those went to bowl games. And there are going to be 6 bowl eligible Mid-American Conference teams, assuming NIU beats Eastern Michigan. Now, the thing is, the MAC has never had more than 5. But it's kind of setting up in a scenario where they could get more than 5, and if they were to, this might be the year. And the biggest part of that is from teams that you wouldn't even think about. Miami, Florida, for example, decided that they were not going to go to a bowl game this year. They were going to put that self-sanction on themselves. And there's also a couple other teams. You look at Navy, teams like Army, who are at that 5-win number that if they could keep below 6 would help in hopefully getting that number 6 bid if the Cardinals do not win against Toledo on Friday.
And you mentioned Miami, Penn State and Ohio State, both teams that also have thought about not going to bowl games, nothing official yet. So you see those kind of teams sitting out, so you got open bowl spots, and Ball State's going to be right on the border. I do think they will make a bowl game if they play tough against Toledo, not even necessarily a win, because you play tough against Northern Illinois, you play tough against Toledo. 2 of your losses come against ranked teams. One of those was an Oklahoma team that looked very, very good at the time. I think Ball State really has that outside shot, but I do think at the end, they play Toledo tough, they're going to get in.
But if you do win, it's always better. You always give yourself a better chance when you win. But before we talk about that final game against Toledo, let's take a look back at the top 10 plays we've gathered from the 2011 season. We'll start out at number 10, this one to South Florida, as B.J. Daniels drops back, gets the running back, and then Josh Howard. There he is, not his only hard hit of the year.
Well, running backs are taught to stay on the ground, and Josh Howard teaching this lesson with some pain to Scott, one of the best running backs in the nation.
So Josh Howard, we'll see him a little bit later in this top 10, but at number 9 from the Northern Illinois game, the fake punt. Scott Cavanda going almost the distance, but how about that juke move to get around the punt returner, getting down to the 3-yard line?
Yeah, and Scott Cavanda maybe making a case to replace Barrington Scott as a running back with this juke move against the returner, showing off the wheels, only getting down to the 3, just half step too slow.
Yeah, his longest career rush ever. This one from the Army game at number 8, Wenning to Jamil Smith, getting that toe in.
This is a bit of Jamil Smith's coming out party. He had been known kind of as a returner before this point. Showing right here, he can be a big-time factor in the receiving game.
So the Cardinals win against Army. In another game they won at home, Buffalo. Jawan Edwards, as a true freshman, showing us his ability to get in the end zone, in the red zone, as bowling balls his way in there. Showing that he's going to be a big star for this Cardinals team. Number 6, back to South Florida. This time, Mr. Pinkston acting as the receiver with a pick.
And how about the athleticism shown from Jason Pinkston? Not an overly difficult play to make, but you see him turning all the way around, lunging out. And that was the first turnover this Ball State defense had at that point in the season.
Number 5, back to Northern Illinois. Keith Wenning audibling to Jamil Smith. One-on-one coverage. Jamil beats his man. 4th and 3. What a gutsy call and a very well executed play.
A big-time gutsy call. This was not the call from the beginning of the play, but on 4th and 3 to go 30-plus yards, and check out the dive from Jamil Smith. Had to be 7-yard dive at least.
And then number 4, as we go back home, the Buffalo game, Keith Wenning dropping back and finding Willie Snead for his first career touchdown. The go-ahead touchdown winning score there for the Cardinals against Buffalo. And then finally we go to number 3. This one, rewinding the tape all the way back to Lucas Oil Stadium, Keith Wenning goes deep to Connor Ryan, dragging the foot in.
How about the awareness of Connor Ryan in the end zone to drag his feet, as you see it slowed down, just about as textbook as you can get, and the game-winning score for Ball State.
Told you we'd see him again. Josh Howard back to Northern Illinois. Like you guys said, plenty of big plays as Harnish with a rare fumble coughs up the ball. Andre Dawson with a nice hit, but Josh Howard, the fastest Cardinal on the defense, and shows it.
And how many times have we seen Ball State this year with a chance to pick up a fumble and have trouble scooping the ball? I think that's the most underrated part of this, is he scooped the ball cleanly and allowed for that play to happen.
They call that a country ball. If it's in traffic, they call it a city ball, but that one a country ball where you're supposed to scoop and score. Finally, number 1 of the year, Steven shot from 44 yards out at Eastern Michigan. He's pure. The Cardinals bowl eligible with that win and the game winner. So that rounds out the top 10 for the Cardinals on the year. Great job by Ben Wagner getting all that together and getting all those highlights. Now let's talk about Toledo this week. And once again, the Cardinals facing a very, very high-powered offense.
Yeah, and everyone knows about Eric Page. He's maybe been the best wide receiver in this conference since he stepped on Toledo's campus 2 years ago when he's a freshman. He's the most dynamic playmaker in the MAC, but it's not just him. And Adonis Thomas and Williams, their two-headed attack at running back are both very good. That's Thomas right there. You see his cutback ability, making plays left and right. He really took that next step. We saw him last year against Ball State, and he wasn't really, he was an okay back, but for the MAC, right around average. Thomas really stepped up and has turned into a factor back this year in the Mid-American Conference. And for so many weapons that this team has, to add another one at tailback, that two-headed monster at quarterback makes it just that much easier.
And you mentioned how many playmakers they have on this offense. They balance it out so well with their rushing and passing attack, and that's what makes them so dangerous, all the options.
And most teams that we see with two quarterback options, they're not very fluid, a little bit off at times. But this Toledo team has really made it work.
Well, the cliche is that if you have two quarterbacks, you really don't have any. But they've absolutely made this work. And what they've done is it's more of a situation not of we don't have one quarterback that we feel comfortable with. It's that we have two quarterbacks that we can't afford to not have both of them on the field at the same time. And this came last year when Austin Danton got hurt. Terrence Owens came in and played very effective. Danton's more the passer. Owens is more of the runner, and we'll see them change in and out during the game depending on where they are. If Toledo gets up big, we see more Terrence Owens. If it's a shootout like we saw against Northern Illinois and like Western Michigan, we'll see more Austin Danton. But if Toledo's in a situation where they need a score and it's late in the game, Austin Danton's their guy. He's a very, very solid passer and an underrated quarterback because he doesn't see the field 24/7.
And the way you game plan against that is you have to game plan specifically for which quarterback is in at which situation. Now, the way you beat them when they get into those situations is you force the one to do what they're not great at. If Danton's in, make him run and play good coverage. If Owens is in, cover the running lanes and make him throw. Get them out of that rhythm because that's how you beat a two-quarterback system. You don't let them get into a rhythm, and then problems arise.
So offensively, how do you beat this team? Obviously, Toledo team is a great offense. Do you keep up with them, or do you try to win time of possession against their bad defense?
What you do is you highlight, control copy, and control paste. You do exactly what you did last week against Northern Illinois, and that was make those calls, the gutsy calls when you need to, the big plays. Ball State's been really good in the MAC season, at least, with getting those big plays. Toledo gives them up. They've given up 60-plus points in each of their last two games. The big play will be big to watch, and hopefully they can get Juwan Edwards working again because that just is one more tough element to stop for a defense.
And this takes me back to the old fable, the tortoise or the hare. Which race do you run? Well, I think they're going to have to run a little bit of both races. They're going to have to obviously keep up because this Toledo offense is going to score, and they're going to score a lot of points. However, at the end of the day, you still got to make a lot of big-time stops. And I agree, Pat, if they get Juwan Edwards going, that's going to be great because that gives them a lot more balance. It helps out Keith Wenning, and most importantly, it eats up time on the clock. And as we saw against Northern Illinois, that's going to be a major factor.
All right, guys. Last player to watch of the season. Better make it count.
For me, it's Ball State linebacker Aaron Morris. He's kind of that blitzing linebacker, that hybrid linebacker, the guy they moved from safety to linebacker. But one of the keys for this Ball State pass defense has actually had nothing to do this season with the defensive backs. It's been how much pressure can they get on the quarterback. And that's what Aaron Morris does a whole lot of. And you saw in the IU game, Aaron Morris wreaked absolute havoc. If he can do that against Terrence Owens and against Austin Danton, it's going to give a lot of relief to the Cardinal defensive backs. But more importantly, he gets to the quarterback quick, and it's less time that their star receiver, Eric Page, has to get downfield.
How about on the offensive end? Keith Wenning is my player to watch because we know this Toledo offense is so good, and they're going to put up a lot of points. Well, Keith Wenning, he's got to answer right back. He's had a solid season, but this is going to be his Sistine Chapel, his biggest game of the year. He's got to have his best game against this Toledo team if they want a chance to win.
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I've pretty much been doing this all year, but picking multiple players, but I think it has to be all the seniors this year, Gibson, Orsbon, Adam Moore, Sean Baker, and many more, but they've just been through so much. An undefeated season, and then you follow that with a 2-win season, and you've been through 3 coaches. I mean, that takes a lot, and I think you got to watch out for all the seniors on Senior Day, the day after, or tomorrow rather, a day after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, guys, this is it. This is the end of the show, but it has been a great season, and we hope you've all enjoyed the in-depth coverage all year long, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, follow us at BSU Sports Link on Twitter for all Ball State sports info. Hey, go out and show your support tomorrow. Burn off that turkey and get to the shoe at 2 p.m. But if you can't move off that couch, make sure you listen to us on Sports Link Radio 91.3, WCRD.net. We'd like to thank Papa John's for its support this year, and thanks to our whole Sports Link crew here, especially Joel Bragg and Ben Wagner, the producers for the show, and also the WIPB staff for allowing us time here in the studio. And for Chris Rankle, Pat Boylan, I'm Kyle Binder. We thank you for watching all year long, and if Ball State goes to a bowl, we'll be back. But until next time, chirp, chirp.